All
Now it
right.
started.
Now it's recording.
All right.
Thank
Well, I
you.
missed the good part of recording before, but okay, thank you, sir.
It's okay, we're talking about things.
We were talking about things that, yeah, nobody needed to hear other than to hang the fish in your tree to get good pollination for your mango.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk, what's the other stuff?
It's like stinky stuff and they
Yep.
love mangoes.
Yep, that's it. Don't spoil the surprise. We gotta lure. This is the guy, look, this is
I
the
didn't
guy who
wear
always
deodorant today.
lures people in for. Mangoes aren't blooming, so go take a bloody shower, you twit. This is the guy who would sit there in his videos to get views. They go run around slapping each other in the ass. You know? Cactus patch.
No, I was eating hot chili peppers until I cry and
Yeah.
like watching me die every day. So that's a
Oh yeah, we used to do that, was go grab a 6-pack of beer and just sit there and watch videos of fools eating ghost peppers or whatever, and then now they got the reapers and
It's my #1 video.
oh,
Eat a Scotch bonnet. See how you
eat
do.
a Scotch bonnet. Okay, we'll see how we do. All right, everybody, time to get into it here now. We're gonna talk about growing mangoes. One of the, well, people call it the queen of the fruit. I can think of better queens than mangoes personally, but you know, it's, well, we talked figs and dates and stuff.
To each their
To
own.
each their own. Nothing wrong with them. They're actually pretty heavy by volume and weight, 14% sugars. You can get them, you know, dinky a few ounces up to 5 pounders. They come big. There's like what, at least 700 or 800 different varieties in the world, I think.
Yeah.
And the first written recordings of them go back to Buddhist monks, 4000 BC. So they have been around for quite some time. Now they are there. You have got two main races, we'll say. You've got Indian and then Asian or Southeast Asian. And the big difference is Indian mangoes are monoembryonic and Asian are polyembryonic. So polyembryonic means that you have more than one tree per seed and they're coming true to the parent. In other words, whatever the tree was like that you took the fruit from and planted the seed, it's going to come out identical or at least 90% identical to the parent tree. Polyembryonic means you got one tree per seed and it's totally different than the parent. It's the hybrid offspring of the mother and the father. So it's, you won't get the same, so which a lot of times can be a surprise, but then do you want to wait 8 years
To find out.
to find out? Because you're looking at 5 to 8 years for production to begin from seed. So it takes a while. So yeah, so that's the only drawback there, but yeah, mangoes have been around for a long time and are enjoying good, well-deserved history, reputation. I mean, they started spreading to the Middle East, East Africa, and West Africa about 300 to 400 AD. And they made it to the Americas in the 1600s, brought over by Spaniards, first down into Brazil and those areas, and got introduced into southern Florida in the early 1800s. And there's one of them, Travis, no, I just forgot the name. Travis, that was a hybrid there that's still one of the most popular mangoes
That's
out
the
there. And
heritage from back then. Wow.
yeah, it was bred in Florida, and it's Tommy Atkins. No,
That was
not Tommy Atkins. No, it wasn't. But it was. We'll get back to varieties later, but it's a very, very good, very popular variety.
And in the early 1900s, there was a mango farm here in Tucson near Orange Grove, growing papayas and keeping them alive on Orange Grove. In
Early
the
1900s.
early 1900s, 1920 guy.
It was for more than a year. He did it for like 20 years.
Yeah,
So,
20 years.
so this is overall talking mangoes for growing in Arizona. So that's what we're going to mostly focus on. We will mention that, yes, one of the biggest disease issues for mangoes is anthracnose, but it's not an issue in Arizona, so we're not gonna talk about it. But
Yeah,
if you
we
do
don't-
want,
We don't have enough humidity to be able to spread it.
them
Maybe
going and
some
stuff.
people's yards might be able to create that.
you know what,
microclimate,
if it could get here, there's been one confirmed case of anthracnose in Arizona, and it was on a native sycamore tree growing halfway
Yep.
up the White Mountains. So that was, so anthracnose is in Arizona, but you're gonna need the right conditions to get it down from the White Mountains into the valleys of Tucson or Phoenix and get it to survive. It's like a number of other diseases, peach leaf curl, you don't even have to worry about spraying for that in the spring when your peaches and everything get it. As soon as the summer heat shows up, the fungus dies anyways, so. Copper and sulfur fungicides are both good fungicides, but gonna work better if you ever worry about anthracnose as a preventative and not as a treatment for it, so. But yes, yeah, that whole thing, Orange Grove Road gets its name from the guy who put a whole citrus orchard up there, and I think a few of those original trees, there's just a handful left that are still still alive up
and the
there,
Palms as well, yeah.
and the palms. Huh? The whole Orange Grove,
Yeah,
all of
he owned all
Oracle
of that.
going west,
yeah, it was giant.
not southwest, the whole,
Yeah,
the-
but I meant west side of Warren, all the way.
yeah, just going all the way down.
But on
No, on both
On
sides,
both sides, yeah.
both
East
sides.
side too,
so before we even had.
Oracle and all that, yeah.
The Valley Hunt entry is right there on. Just wanna say, there's. Merkel and Orange Grove, and you got the apartment complex if you're going west. And then you got empty lot, and that's the Valley Hunt.
Yeah,
These are all you would know, and they have.
The date palm grower,
And, something with, might have something with.
citrus too, yeah.
there's a handful of the original citrus or were left at
Is
that
it a guy?
apartment
I
complex.
thought it was someone else.
Yeah, that's, great.
She buys mulberries from us.
Well, good, we gotta go talk to her, and then across the road is Sabrina, I think,
Yeah, Sabrina. Are you sure you're not talking about Sabrina?
Yeah.
yeah,
It's right
yeah, she's on the north side of the road, yeah.
there.
Yeah.
That's-
It's Sabrina, not a Gavi Pantry. No, I don't think she does much. She's from Pakistan, if I'm not mistaken, and they buy mulberries and stuff from us.
I thought she was 50.
Uh,
Maybe
No, well, she
she
might
always
be,
buys
but
fruit from us. I figured that it wasn't somebody who has a
It's
fruit.
yes,
her husband's from Saudi Arabia and.
Yeah, oh, they're really nice people for sure.
Yeah,
I think they went to high school.
yeah. So, all right, so now that we've gotten off track, we'll work
It's all
on
right. We
getting,
were talking about Orange Grove
yeah,
and they've
All
got
right.
nitrogen in them. Thank you.
And the instructions are on there. when they-
So- so mangoes have a good, long, unique history in the US. They've gone way down. I think they're been at one point well over 1,000 acres in commercial production in Florida. There might still be upwards of near that, at least half that, but
And we've
And
got
half
some
of that is-
orchards in California near the Salton Sea that
Yeah.
are doing really well. They seem to cover their stuff in the clay, the kaolin
Oh,
clay
the other thing. Yeah.
during the summer to keep it from being scorched too much, but some pretty large mango facilities in California now.
Yeah.
It's wild.
they're starting to take off in
Yeah.
California. They had been fighting for a long time for prime orchard growing land with everybody else for almonds and pistachios and everything else.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's why they ended up settling down there because better suited for them than a lot of the other fruits and stuff. I got one customer in Phoenix who's from Pakistan. And he said the sweetest mangoes come from the regions with the hottest summer temperatures. So don't be afraid of sun or heat or anything. He's got his mangoes in full sun, and so it's just a matter of watering them properly. Now, if you're starting out with a little 3-foot tree, you might have to give it a little shade the first year because it came from a nice cool region, either California or Florida to be,
Nice greenhouse.
or greenhouse to be sold here retail, so. Yeah, so that first year, if you've got a little tree, you might have to give it some shade protection.
Yeah, I highly recommend that after 11 o'clock that they're seeing shade here in Tucson until they're established. They seem to do best that way, or creating a trellis to create that same type of thing. If you're getting that afternoon sun well into 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, you're gonna see not a happy mango tree.
Yeah.
They scorch very easily and they just prefer having some shade in the afternoon, a lot like loquats, even though Tony will tell me they take full sun. I'll
I-
send you 500 pictures from all my clients this summer. Of
I-
unhappy loquats
I
that
had
need
a-
6,000 gallons of water.
I had a beautiful loquat growing in a 45-gallon grow bag. It had rooted through the bottom of the grow bag into the ground, having to water it a couple times a day. And it was
Exactly.
thriving in full sun until my wife got the call that I was flown into the hospital by helicopter. And then I asked her later, why did these certain trees die? And she said, because it was keep you alive or keep the trees alive.
I'm glad they chose you, Tony.
And so it was, you know,
You must spread your knowledge, then you can die.
then I can die. Thank you. I love you too, sweetheart. Good grief. Can you feel the love? All right, so speaking of that, so with mangoes here, when you plant them, the key, mangoes will grow in a number of different regions. I mean, if you even look at Florida itself, you've got sandy areas, you've got calciferous areas, you've got hard rock areas. You have areas where they're less than 10 feet above the water table and they've got to build a volcano mound to plant them up on that just so that the roots aren't sitting
In water.
in water.
Yeah.
So the key for mangoes here, and believe it or not, they pH range is 6 to 7.5. Everybody's trying to push them down into the 5s. They don't need it. If you're about a 6.5 for a pH, that's
They'll do fine.
ideal. That's great. Right in that range there, right in there. That 6 to 7 is absolutely ideal. But you want good drainage. So yes, if
A
you're,
lot like papayas.
yeah,
We plant all of our papayas at clients' houses on our food forests, up on mounds, and mangoes up on mounds, especially if there's a clay substrate underneath. It's just too moist for them, and you've got to be able to have that good drainage. One of the key elements that we're seeing is adding sand, whatever kind of sand, clay sand, silica sand, adding that continually as you add mulch, and when it breaks down, being able to give that aeration and that drainage is key for them to really take off.
so,
Yeah,
so just a lot of
yeah,
lot of compost when you go to plant them. A lot of compost, plant them up high, get the root flare exposed.
yeah, keep those roots cool.
And just build it out, like Jake said, almost like a mound. And come in and then you can mound the compost up to it. But leave the root flare
Yeah, don't-
exposed, so
don't
the
put
root
it on
flare
your
is,
trunk.
root flare is like looking at the main roots attaching to the trunk of the tree, like your fingers attaching to your knuckles. And you don't need to see, but maybe a foot diameter or of them, 1.5 at the most on mature trees with the roots going out into the ground. You want to actually physically see them exposed. You don't want to cover them
Yeah,
up.
Keep the
so-
mulch back 6 to 12 inches for sure, and continually move it, because birds will push it back to the trunks, as we all know as growers.
And so instead of trying to make it a really narrow volcano top, don't be afraid to make it 2
Yeah.
or 3 feet across so that you can slope it down so
Yep.
that when birds do get up there, they tend to push it more away instead of into
a basin.
into and against the trunk. So
Yeah,
you
but-
can have it just a whole big slope away, but gradual sloping, not,
Yeah, the
Not a
worst
spot.
problems I had occur for me was people weren't talking about root flare when I first started this. Everybody add 2 feet of mulch, keep adding mulch and all of this, and by the time it's all broken down, your tree is now 24 inches below grade. And you're fighting that continually every month, trying to clean off the mulch and keep the fungus away from that root flare. Planting on a hill, especially if you're planning on doing a lot of mulch in your yard, we plant our trees 20 inches above grade and create these volcanoes like Tony's saying, and that mulch breaks down and eventually it becomes closer to level, and then slow down on your mulch. But I think that's key for sure.
yeah.
Don't plant it deeply A lot of people in the desert were doing these basins, catchment basins and whatnot. If you're gonna do a catchment basin, you have to make a giant catchment basin and then have these trees float above it. And eventually it's gonna become a little bit more level. You can't just drown these things and expect them to be successful.
It's no different with the tree.
Yeah, exactly.
So what we always suggest when we're
Hello.
talking as a tree surgeon to clients about any trees when we're planting, pull it out of the. And then loosen up that root ball and see what's going around it, around that you can't untangle and put behind the program. And then score the bottom, now see how big that root ball is.
And find that root flare, because some of those root flares are buried 10 inches in those pots.
And then what you do is you measure that and you go 1 to 2 inches above the soil line so that you get that root flare above the soil line. So you're basically planting like this every time it rains, it's gonna come out to where the, the flare is. It's not gonna go up next to the trunk and rot it and bring the soil and rot it and bring the soil.
Yeah.
On it. Then you lose whatever you planted. So this way, we used to plant, with a, basin like that all the time. Until we started seeing what was happening in the industry itself as a whole. That, started noticing that the base was starting to be rotted. And then, we have trees that are done.
Yeah.
No, you still want a nice water basin, so
Yeah.
here's your volcano in the middle, and so. Count that. You want at least 6 foot by 6 foot, maybe 8 by 8. If you've got a big mound in the middle there going down about 6 to 10 inches deep. Because if you've got a 6 foot by 6 foot basin that's 6 inches deep, that's roughly 150 gallons of water that you would catch in a good summer thunderstorm. And if
Yeah.
you're trying to grow here in Arizona, that's a lot of free water to really help your,
Absolutely.
Your
And
tree
I'm
out.
totally proponent of doing the xeriscaping and
So we
permaculture
don't-
and capturing
yeah,
that
we
water.
never, any, like at 6 inches, we never make a hole deeper than 6 inches, but we go out 4 times the width. So that, we're basically the same thing with like the trees.
well, yeah, you just want a recessed basin and you'll be,
'Cause
you'll be all set. What's that? Did you say something, Marina? Oh, okay.
Margie, Arena, anybody? Somebody say something?
All right. So any questions on, so when you making your whole add in a lot of compost, if you're one of the lucky few who has a sandy area, use some peat moss. Peat moss would work much better than compost in sandy soil. And you can mix in a good amount of organic fertilizer, according to the label direction.
And a
Something
ton of
that's-
sand.
And something that's, well, yeah, if you're in heavy clay, if you're better off using the one that's designed to promote flowering because that will help promote root growth at the same time. So that's what you want to do for your organic fertilizer, get that mixed in there.
And we want about
Uh,
5 to 6 lbs of sulfur, depending on what kind of sulfur you're using. The initial planting
Yeah,
to lower the pH.
5 to 10 pounds of sulfur mixed in. It's what it's going to take to do anything out here to have any effect. And just remember, you don't have to crank it super low. If you're already around a 7, 7.5, you'll be all right. For mangoes, you're not too bad a shape. If you're pushing 7.5 and above, then you got to put a lot of sulfur in it planting. Maybe
And
even
then
heavier.
Continuing on the sulfur, you'd want to do sulfur about 3 times a year.
Yeah, pound per 10 square feet of area.
Valentine's,
Uh,
Memorial Day, Labor Day.
What kind of mango is going to survive our winter? None.
So what we
You-
do for keeping mangoes and subtropicals alive is finding the key microclimate in your yard. Underneath a very large evergreen helps a lot to have that temperature stay very close to not freezing. We also make tents out of DeWitt frost cloth, 1.5 ounce to 3 ounce. Making it out of PVCs, and you just make a cage around it. And then inside of that cage, you have to have heat lamps. You can't just add the DeWitt frost cloth and expect it to be able to survive our winters when we get a hard freeze. So within the size of your frost enclosure, you want to add about 250 watt heat lamp to it. And I have all of this information on Tucson Tree Finders if you really are interested in trying to keep one alive. They get a little more hardy as time goes, but Christmas lights, the C9 Christmas lights, the old school ones that are really large, you can drape those around the trees and then have them covered. But no matter if you have them covered, you need to make a cage so that it's not sitting on the leaf structure or branches itself. Anything that is on the outskirts and touching that cloth will freeze and die back. With mangoes, you start to see dieback. Anytime it freezes, if you're not cutting that off appropriately, it'll kill the whole tree eventually as well. So you got to keep an eye on that.
And go with the 3-ounce freeze blankets because those are gonna provide protection down to the mid-low 20s. The regular standard ones will barely get you 30 to 32. So you want a lot more protection on your mango trees. You can also take the plumber's insulation pipe wrap,
And put it around.
put
the
it
trunk.
around the trunk. That'll help protect the trunk, keep some more warmth and insulation there. And then it's the lights, just building it all up and getting the lights up in there to
And then-
protect it from the
And
cold.
then during the winter, we're cutting the water down drastically, watering about once a week or less. If we get winter rains, you don't want to inundate that and cause root rot or anything like that. They would rather have a drier soil. If it's going to freeze and the soil is dry, then we would recommend watering
could-
like a citrus a little bit just to help it get some moisture in its leaves and not be susceptible to frost as much.
It doesn't matter. She's in a warm spot.
Yeah.
So this lady's
Yeah,
in a
you're-
cold.
Yeah, she's. So,
You know.
We hit freezing at 8 o'clock at night at my
Yeah.
house this winter. I got lucky. It only went to 24 before the little breeze came up. And it got back above freezing at 9:30 the next morning.
so
So
what we're talking,
thank you very much.
what we're talking about out in the crowd here is, depending on where you live, if you're in a valley in Tucson or close to a wash, you're going to be much more susceptible to a hard freeze. Whereas people who live up on a hill are going to be less. Roxanne, one of our members, lives in the Tucson Mountain foothills, and anywhere in the foothills around Tucson, it doesn't get as cold as like even my house. I'm in the middle of town on a hill. We have one section that'll freeze really hard during that time, but there's a little section like where the orange grove is that seems to be the perfect climate for everything. I know friends with 15-20 foot guavas growing there without any protection. Mango's doing a lot better around that area. If you're down near the wash or in the valley, you're going to be getting those cold fronts coming in a lot harder and need to work a little bit harder at keeping it from freezing.
Yeah, and a hard freeze is counted as 4 hours or longer at 28 or below for temperature. So a quick dip to 26 and back up within a couple hours is not as bad as prolonged temperatures just at 28 degrees. You won't see as much damage. And mangoes are hitting death at 29, 30 degrees on young trees. Established trees can handle 2-3 hours temperatures down to almost the mid-20s with minimal damage.
And
But
we're,
any-
we're
must
talking
be a
established hard bark
Established
trees.
meaning 15, 20-foot trees.
Yeah.
And so, and then that's only 2 or 3 hours and they're still gonna take some damage. Below that, then you start having deaths. So I got a friend up in Gilbert, Phoenix area. He went to, what do you say, 28 for a number of hours this year. And his small trees were just toast, just totally burned hard. And his nice 20-foot lemon zest mango just had the
The
outer
outskirts.
branches were all.
Yeah, it's
We're all
creating
pro-
its own little protection, like I was talking about the evergreen trees and planting pine trees or Texas ebonies or something like that to create that structure around it. In Florida, they have a lot of luck there because they have these 60-foot established 100-year-old oak trees above their canopy. And you will watch these videos there and they're in the same zone as us, 9A, 9B, and having huge harvests, but you don't see what's going on above them. And they've got these evergreens that are holding the temperature a lot better
And they keep them pruned back because mangoes can grow 100 feet tall themselves.
Yeah, exactly. But that's not gonna happen in our region. People will go to, Central America and go, I saw this mango tree that was 100 feet tall and it had roots just breaking bricks everywhere. That's never gonna happen here. It is absolutely not
Yeah,
going
you might-
to occur here. The largest one I know of is 12 feet tall. I
No.
mean, in Tucson?
Oh, in Tucson,
Yeah,
yeah, around 10, 15 foot. But we got our sweetheart up in Phoenix.
oh, yeah, oh my God,
Hers are-
Sandy? What's
Sandy, it's
Sandy?
35
Oh.
feet, I think.
Uh,
35,
if
40
you,
feet.
if you guys want to see an amazing microclimate, there's a lady in Phoenix and Tony can send you a link to that. But pretty much if you Google mango forest in Phoenix, you'll meet our friend Sandy and she has avocados that are that large as well, but they're 40 feet tall. Her mom planted them in the 70s or
planted-
60s.
She planted them
Some
from seed,
seed.
and anything planted directly in the ground from
From seed
seed
is
is
going to
hardier than
Do
anything else.
better, yeah.
Even taking your own seed and starting it in a pot this
Yeah.
first year and then sticking it in the ground
Seed in the
will
ground
not
is
be as
100%
hardy
better.
as sticking a seed straight in the ground.
Absolutely. But she sold the house, I think 2 years ago or so.
No,
Yeah. She's still there.
well,
She gave me seed and cuttings to clone because she was.
I
selling the
think I
house.
just, no, I know she did. And I think I just delivered fertilizer to her either last year or this year. I think it was this year. I think it was after my accident because she called me up while I was still sitting in the chair there and Lucy was just loving the conversation with us. I put it on speaker so
Or
she could
maybe
hear.
one of the family got. the
No,
trees.
she was still there. They
I
wanted to
haven't
move.
spoke to her in too
They,
long. I
they
should
wanted to
talk her.
move. They were going to move.
Oh,
Like
okay.
2 years ago, because she was asking me for empty cardboard boxes and I was like, I didn't have any of them. She just ordered
She
a
needs
bag.
cardboard boxes because she has hundreds and hundreds of mangoes. Like you couldn't believe the harvest she's getting. And Jay Behringer, also from Phoenix Fruit Growers, he showed his latest mango harvest and he doesn't know what to do with the fruit either. I'm like, oh,
I
come
get-
up there and take them from me.
My friend in Gilbert, he was the one who had, I don't know, like 30, 40 mangoes that he just picked up quick off the ground just from a windstorm, just knocking. That was what fell to the ground.
Yeah.
Never mind what remained on the tree. And speaking of that, so when mangoes flower, you're gonna have 10 million blooms and about 1% will actually set fruit. So you do have male and female flowers on the tree and bees do not pollinate them, very rarely. Flies love to pollinate them. So if you go and hang that, that's what I was saying, if you go and
Yeah.
hang the,
You thought we
Hang
were
the fish.
weird.
no,
We-
Ended my love.
Derek,
Мам,
Derek,
Я
he-
слушаю. Я тебя не слышу. Я не кормила рыб. Тебе придется наклоняться.
I think she's just talking.
yeah, so Derek did that. He gone out fishing, just had this fish carcass that was filleted about like this big. Hung it on this side of the mango tree and this side was loaded with fruit. And this
Yeah,
side
they're
didn't
not.
hardly have anything.
Yeah.
So,
So
cause all the flies were just there and going around all the
we
flowers.
just let our chickens run around the same area as the mangoes, so that causes the flies to come and pollinate as well. So a few different ways of doing it, but
Yeah,
making a bag with something stinky in it and attaching it to your tree when it's flowering heavily will definitely induce a lot more pollination for sure.
well, I prefer just going fishing because that's the excuse of the wife. Hey, dear, you want some pollination on your mangoes? We need to have some fish guts or something to go hang in sacks outside under the mango tree. You need to let me go fishing.
She should just put you in the doghouse out there and you'd be plenty pollinated.
Be plenty, yeah, it's about right. So give me some good dinner with plenty of
So-
salsa and
so
yes, we,
Speaking of flowers, when your tree's young, all trees, we recommend to be removing the fruit the first couple years to have, better root depth and growth on the tree itself instead of it's expending energy towards trying to grow these fruits. People will go and cut off the panicles on
that's the flowers.
the flowers itself. And when you cut them off, they will immediately flower again. So you have to wait for the fruit to set. And when they
Then cut them off.
get a certain size, then cut them off. The tree just continually tries to keep making more flowers. So
Yeah, it wants to reset the fruit and So normally the best time to prune mangoes is after fruit harvest. If you've got a tree with an early harvest, say by May, you could go ahead and prune it then, but unfortunately, sometimes it may be midsummer, so when some of the mango varieties are ripe here, they can be May to September. So if you've got a later ripening trees, especially with the cold weather, you're better off doing pruning at flowering time. So if you're not, so on the year where you're not removing all the flowers because you're leaving some of those flowering panicles on there, the buds, you can go ahead and remove some others without generally inducing the tree to want to give more flowers because you left some on there. So that will be the time to shape your tree. Here, if you want it again, easier to cover, I like an open center cut. Just go in and
Yeah, always.
take out the, it's opposite of what you do for
leading
shade
terminal
trees,
bud.
but eliminate that main center shoot and just have the side shoots growing out. Keep 3 to 5 scaffold branches going up the tree. You'll have a shorter tree, easier to cover, fatter, easier to get at the
Yeah,
fruit and
the
everything.
trees will try to grow out and they just drop to the ground. You've got to kind of keep them cut back, so.
And you will find some varieties actually do grow downwards naturally on their own. They're
yeah,
not just,
like
it's
a-
not
like a
just the weight of the,
mushroom.
yeah, it's not just the weight of the fruit. You'll see the branches growing out, starting to grow down to the ground. So that, those trees just make certain you've got it trimmed up a little bit higher than you might others. And you don't have to trim them up high normally. I have most of my fruit trees are branching between knee and waist high, from my citrus to the loquat to everything. So they don't need to be pruned up so that you're walking underneath the tree, especially
Yeah.
for a fruit tree. You want to pick at that fruit.
Yeah,
Let it go and be short and fat. So,
Shade
yeah,
the
you keep the trunk shaded. So, anybody have any other questions so far? I like quiet audience, and we can just zoom right through everything. I know they're all thinking of wanting to come up with, Roxanne was sweet, God bless her. She brought in mangoes samples
of
for
fruit for
everybody,
us.
bunch of
Thank
fruit
you,
for everybody,
Roxanne.
and Logan,
if they're cold, I'll.
Logan seeds. And so. So we're gonna, everybody's waiting to go and hit those. So now, as far as we talked earlier with diseases, so anthracnose is an issue in other areas, especially Florida, the Gulf Coast, where you've got high humidity and everything. It's not a problem here in Arizona at all. Our biggest thing here is going to be powdery mildew in the spring, not just on the foliage, but Derek, his lemon zest. He took a major hit a few years ago. I stopped by his house and the powdery mildew was all over the flowers. And sometimes it's just that comes with the weather. So what happens is we get a cool, wet winter, then the spring dries out and warms up a little bit, but the nights stay cool with high humidity. And that's what sets the powdery mildew off on all your plants, whether it's your cucumber or whatever else. And all his flower panicles were just loaded with mildew, just couldn't even open or set one fruit on them. So you can, no, I mean, you can spray with, you'll hear copper fungicide, you'll hear of sulfur fungicide. Sulfur fungicide, you have to be careful here in Arizona. If it gets up into the pushing 90 degrees, combination of the high temperature with sulfur will burn and kill any tree that you've got. So you've got to be careful with that. No, sulfur will burn. There are other fungicides out there that you can use, streptomycin type, like I said, milk, but pure whole milk and preferably not pasteurized. That's what's going to work. Pasteurized, it's not as good. And if it's anything but whole milk, it's, not even worth it. Don't waste your time.
And we see some like fungal spot issues that people, if they Google, look like anthracnose, just treat with copper fungicides. And then the one thing I touched base on was the dieback diseases that occur, where you'll find a branch that turns black. You need to address that very quickly and clean your loppers or your trimmers with alcohol between each cut. You'll see within the stem or trunk a black spot that will be found, and you want to cut it back to where that is no longer found.
And so if you already see it to here, know that it's already here.
Yeah, it
So
could,
you gotta cut all the way back in here. Now, some of these that are looking similar to this, University of Florida has found that in some cases it is micronutrient deficiencies. And they're turning it around with applications of manganese, boron, copper, zinc, some of your micronutrients. So that's still a little bit
yeah.
early coming on, and Florida obviously is in Arizona,
So
but they are.
giving some micronutrients when we plant, also, we usually do azomite or elamite. Just a shovelful, a couple cups, whatever it may be. And then, in your beginning phases, doing that about twice a year or so and kind of lessening it as it goes because of the heavy metals that are in there. It's
There-
not necessary to do that so much, but using a good organic fertilizer like Tony's Earth's Original Organic, he's already got that fine rock dust in there.
Yeah, so volcanic ash, depending upon the source, is gonna have a lot of those in there, and so yes, it will help out. That's gonna give you a lot of what you need. And the big thing with with some of the volcanic ashes, and you'll know because the ones that tend to be whiter in color have more silica, and that silica is also gonna really help out with the health of any of your plants. There are some university studies, that I've seen that were starting to come out that were showing that silica long-term use will increase the heat and drought tolerance of your trees. So
Yes,
that's 2 to
and that's
5 years
across the
down the
board.
road. Just all you gotta do is look at the Jamaican tomato farmers. Anytime you see guys who are paying $100 for a little can of something like this on a multi-million-dollar crop, there's a reason they're
We're
doing it.
using it. Somebody asked, do you have seeds or mango trees in stock? My nursery does not. He's no longer a nursery, but you can buy them from Don Olson up in Phoenix. He comes down occasionally and does deliveries here, and he is living the Green Life or Green Life Nurseries. And he has an online ordering thing, and you can follow him on Facebook to see when he's going to be delivering to Tucson. And he has one of the best stock of mangoes and a lot of knowledge about how to grow them
He's-
as well.
He's got them there. If you're driving up and don't want to go all the way up into Phoenix, Desert Horizon Nursery has started selling them again. And Desert Horizon's in Queen Creek.
Queen Creek.
So they've started up
It's
there
all the
again.
same. It's too far.
And then, well, it's an easier drive in and out than
Just kidding.
there. And then if you really want to have mangoes, Alex at a Tropica Mango just put his nursery up for sale. So
Yeah, you want to go buy a
He's in-
lot of mangoes?
he's in Apache Junction, so you can just go buy the whole nursery.
Yeah, everything. Yeah.
He's retiring, yeah.
Yeah.
He's selling the nursery. So you got the nursery with the trees and everything, the land there. Right. No, he's just selling the nursery. I mean, he's got good sales on some of the plants and stuff. I mean, he's got everything, citrus, pomegranates, the
So-
whole 9 yards, but.
What do you think you did wrong? I don't know how to pronounce your name. Daruv. What do you think went wrong and why your trees died that you got from him? Did you protect them during cold? Were you watering appropriately?
They die over the
or
summer or
did
when
They
did
die in the summer, the winter, or what happened?
No, they died in summer, which is weird because they survived the winter. There was some minor leaf damage because I did take good care of them, like frost cloth and everything.
Yeah,
But then the leaves started having like brown spots on them, and then slowly they started dying.
So that sounds like sometimes can be micronutrient deficiencies. There is another virus disease that I just saw, and there's not a lot out on it again from the University of Florida that they're just starting to identify that looks similar to anthracnose, but has no relationship to anthracnose from what I've been able to find so far. And that is a possibility. Sometimes this had been discovered many years ago that plants can actually have internal damage from the freeze from the cold
and
weather.
you're not seeing it, which is
And the-
causing that dieback to
And
occur.
it doesn't show until the summer heat sets in. So that it could be that it had enough internal damage on a young tree, but it takes the heat of summer. We had that big freeze here in southern Arizona in 2011 in February. A lot of trees
Mhm.
died straight to the ground. Some of them didn't die to the ground. Some of them even started to recover, but then a whole bunch more died come
During
June
the
and
summer.
July over the summertime once the heat came. because they had so much internal damage, they couldn't take the water up. Now,
Oh.
how much
How much were you watering?
and how often?
And
I was
how-
watering it daily, like I have it on a bubbler. Like I was watering all my fruit trees like 1 hour daily until June. And after
with
June, I
a
started for
hose
2
that,
hours.
Like
No, no,
full-
with the bubbler. And after June, how often?
For 2 hours daily. That's what I was doing until now.
So
So
2
now
hours,
I've set it.
2 hours daily for your trees is a bit much. You should have been every few days. So you may have also started to bring in root rot because mangoes don't like sitting in
Yeah, it
constant
it
wet
might have been
feet.
too
So
much water.
you're,
One of my clients who you're using bubblers, is that correct? Like
Yes.
a lot of water coming out of it. Her very successful mango is receiving 15 minutes of her bubblers, and this is at high velocity for 15 minutes every 3 days. So there is a little bit of dryback occurring, and we're using a soil that is very sand heavy, so
Okay.
it's able to drain better. If you
Uh-huh.
have clay soil or something like that, you're never able to get that drying to occur. If
I
there's
can show you guys like how I have the mount set up
Well,
and
what-
everything.
what I would do is for all of your trees, because long-term watering like
Mhm.
that, whether it's citrus, guavas, avocado, loquat, peaches, plums,
Mhm.
you can set yourself up for root rot disease on all of them. So you're better off having it at a slow rate, which I'm guessing you already have if you're running it for 2 hours. But
Yeah.
what you need to do now is you need to go every other day for a week or two to start and wean them off of that daily watering, and then go to every 3 or 4 days. So that's what you want is good, long, slow, deep soakings. If you don't have that heavy sand in there for drainage, and just nowhere near as often. And that'll be for all your trees, because otherwise you're just gonna set yourself up long-term for other issues. I just went to an orchard on Monday
Mhm.
where they have, figs, peaches, plums, apples, pears. And I could see the couple of dead plums, another plum that had signs of Pseudomonas, some of the peaches with either Fusarium or Verticillium wilt. And just from how they were getting watered, and then the apples were starting to show iron and zinc deficiencies, and it was in a somewhat loamy soil. It wasn't far from the riverbed. So if they still stay wet, that's gonna be an issue, and that's what's gonna help bring in the diseases. These trees were also buried a little deep. So they're gonna go through and expose the root flare and see what we can't do to take corrective action.
So
from it.
long soakings, but a duration between so that you don't have, fungus is growing in the soil or having rot occur.
Yeah, and
Okay.
Nick said the first winter is approximately once a week watering. And if it rains and we get 2 or 3 cool days behind that rain, if it's a quarter of an inch or more in rain, then maybe wait 10 days before you water again.
Yeah.
The following winter will be once every 2 or 3 weeks. And then the year after that, if we have a normal rainy
Wet,
season,
rainy.
you do no watering, and if it doesn't rain for that entire month, then you could give it a drink,
Yeah.
once in that month.
Just for subtropicals here with the cold and everything, we lessen the water for sure. I've gone a month without water with mangoes and papayas and things like that. If we're getting rain,
Okay.
and that's best.
And we
They
don't,
don't like cold, wet feet is how we state it easily.
and we don't lessen how much water we give them, we just we dramatically lessen how often.
Gotcha.
You still would let the system run for the 2 hours, but instead of every 3 or 4 days, it's every week, 10 days, then every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then once a month if it doesn't rain. Each year is gonna be less and less in between water. And citrus, loquats, avocados would all be the same. And come the third winter, if you've got deciduous fruits, those would just go on the rainfall. They wouldn't need any supplemental irrigation at all.
Like for deciduous trees like peaches, et cetera, that drop their leaves, you've got to think that it snows in a lot of places where they're growing. And so the only water that they're getting is when that has a melt. So you kind of follow what nature provides.
So I hope that helps.
Yeah, so try it again. Some of the best growers I know have killed a lot of trees.
Yeah, and just replant. Good time to get mangoes in the ground here.
Trust me, I killed a lot of trees, so I don't kill my clients' trees.
He's trying to deflect.
Thank you
Trying to
guys.
deflect.
That's good info actually. I just want to say like in that spot I've now planted a banana, ice cream banana, so we'll see how that does.
Yeah, and
You've got this.
bananas don't like it below 55 degrees, so those you really want to keep warm.
Yeah, and they
And a
hate the
lot.
cold, wet feet for sure.
And a lot of black rot that I see happening on people's bananas over the summer all went back to being exposed to a
To
cold,
cold
wet
in the
winter rain. And
Oh wow.
the fungus gets started with that cold, wet weather, but it needs the summer heat to grow and kill the banana. So it didn't happen. You weren't overwatering in the summertime because Costa Rica is the main banana growing region of the world, and they get upwards of 90 inches of rain a year. So you're never going to overwater your banana here in Arizona, except for in the winter.
Yep. So for your
Good to know.
bananas, wrap them with the C9 Christmas lights, the incandescent bulbs that are large. You can wrap them around the trunk themselves or make a cage around it and put dry straw or dry mulch around that to create the corm, the center of it from being able to freeze. And if you're interested, join Tucson Tree Finders. I have all that information for people trying to exceed our zone limits here.
So, or keep,
Good to know.
Anything.
yeah.
No, I'm convinced that zoo, they're in the South American area.
Yeah,
They're kind of down on the bottom of the hill, then they've got a sidewalk in front of them, but they've just got a bunch of other trees. That are
yeah,
higher.
exactly. Like what I said in Florida, where they've got this canopy above it, the 80-foot silk floss trees right around there, you know, I mean, that's why. Yeah, they're amazing. Yeah.
So, all right. So now with other insects and diseases here in Arizona, you're going to mostly have maybe aphids. You can get some scale. General organic insecticides will take care of those. Just use them a scale.
Yeah, right. Insecticides. Go and smash them.
You know what? I've seen some infestations on some fig trees and stuff. You're not smashing all those scales.
There's nothing you can do. I mean, I have battled those things for years. Smash,
Okay.
smash, smash. Send your kids out and tell them it's a fun game. You'll give them $5.
On your fig tree and
Yeah,
everything,
kill all the trees.
you got to scrape them off with your finger.
Exactly.
Just get out there with some neem oil or pyrethrum or
At the highest rate possible.
azadirachtin. No, follow the label directions. We're not gonna,
I hate scale.
so they'll take care of it. Then fertilizing. So you will hear of mangoes don't like nitrogen. We hear that a lot in Florida, that mature mangoes get like little to no nitrogen in their fertilizer. And then you'll go and read the Texas Ag's recommendations, and they're saying use 1 to 2 cups of ammonium sulfate per inch of tree trunk caliper spread up over 3 or 4 applications a year, and that's 21% nitrogen. So 0 nitrogen, 21%. Take your pick who you want to follow. If you're part of it in Florida is you have in general so many summer thunderstorms, and we all know what happens every time we get a thunderstorm. It's turning that nitrogen in the atmosphere into fertilizer, and it's just raining down fertilizer on the trees every time it rains. So there can be a good reason for not needing a high dose nitrogen fertilizer, or use an organic that's up to 5% around there roughly. 3 to 7, that's going to be slow release and once or twice a year. They do recommend a lot more phosphorus and potassium there. But if you look at their numbers and the numbers they're recommending, they're going to be for a synthetic fertilizer. If you look at your main organics for potassium is green sand and kelp, and those are never above a 1 or 2 unless they've been tweaked to get them up to a 15 or 20. And then you've got stuff like langbonite, which might be up to a 60. But not all of that's available for your plants, and not anything you really need here in the desert at 60% potassium. So just knowing if you want to go organic and use kelp meal or green sand, you don't have to try and hit that 16% number that you'll see listed out there, just follow the label directions and okay, maybe you have to give it 1 or 2 extra times in the year. But you're gonna find a lot better treatment for your plants. Again, getting anything that's designed to promote blooming generally will have more phosphorus and or potassium in it. Again, unless it's kelp or green sand based, then you're not, unless you're using a formulator's kelp, which in order to treat it, to make it be a 15 to 20% potassium, you've lost all the vitamins and hormones and minerals out of it, which is not worth it. You're better off keeping the vitamins and minerals and hormones and having a 1 or 2% potassium level, and you're gonna be just fine. Seen it, dealt with it. Got a lot of mangoes that have produced heavily up in Phoenix. Papayas right here in Tucson. Bananas, guy with 150 avocados off of his tree in Phoenix last year with a 110-degree string record heat summer. So you don't have to have those huge numbers. Just keep the trees well watered and fertilized properly and watered properly, and you'll be in good shape.
And mangoes are gonna flower in January, yes, for February, somewhere around there, pretty early, so you wanna be able to give them some bloom in that same,
Well, the best time to put the
October
bloom,
range.
yeah, is October. Things that push out the flowers on next year's new growth, mangoes, avocados, loquats, citrus especially. Give them something to promote the bloom in October, November if you're Phoenix. You could go as early as September, but just know if we have a mild fall, sometimes you'll push early
they'll
bloom.
push early bloom, yeah.
But you want them to have,
Those nutrients readily available when they wake up and are ready to go, so.
because if you put it on in January or February, it's gonna be March when it's, especially since it's winter time, it's not gonna break down nearly as fast. It could be March, it could be May before it's available to the plants. So that's gonna be the time to get it on there for them.
Right, I think we covered all that. Should we talk?
Yeah, I mean, well, the
varieties?
only other thing, we got some varieties. So what's best tasting, the one that you like?
Yeah, exactly.
You should know
Now
better
you're
than
getting
that by now.
older.
You know what? That's, I'm gone through a case. I made him the bet one time. He said, every time I say organic fertilizer, it's a shot of whiskey. And I said, every time somebody asks me what's the best tasting fruit or vegetable or variety of that one, I mean, 10 cases of whiskey are gone now because we got to take a shot every time. The
I
one that
feel-
you like the most is the, do you?
The
do-
one that
okay.
you grow and are able to come to fruition and get a fruit from will be the best tasting mango you've
Okay,
ever
so
tasted.
do you-
And I know people who've grown Manilas from Home Depot and said, this is the most fabulous mango I've ever eaten, and haven't tried all of these crazy varieties that we'll discuss.
Do you
right
like
now.
grapefruit? You like grapefruit. What's sweeter, red or white?
I like
Okay.
red too.
By the book, the white is sweeter. So there's the answer to your question for which one is sweeter. All right, so Alfonso.
It's a great variety.
It's medium, oh, and I don't recall if I said this or not, but when it comes to the Indian varieties of mangoes and the Asian varieties, number one, color does not determine ripeness. Okay, sometimes color is just because that fruit was hanging down in the sun, had the sun shining on that individual fruit more than one that was on the inside and shaded by the foliage. That being said, Indian varieties, if they do color up, they are the ones that have the beautiful colors, whereas Asian varieties go from green to light green or yellow when they're ripe. They don't get the pretty colors
Yeah,
on
it's
them.
hard to tell.
Mangoes also, you can pick them while they are still fully firm and unripe. Then you've got to give them several days on the counter to ripen up. Little give to them. They're half ripe, semi-ripe, and if they're soft, they are fully ripe. And you can let them ripen on the tree or on your counter just like an avocado. But no, you do not have to pick them all at once. You can go out and pick one every day and enjoy it off the tree. You don't have to do that with any of your fruit. Unless it's a hurricane coming to knock them all on the
Stop
ground or
harvesting everything.
at once. Eat it and enjoy it then and there, and then go out and pick another one fresh off the
It's
tree
your
that
own
day.
refrigerator out there.
That's it. So yes, so Indian varieties color up beautifully, Asian varieties don't. So Alfonso is a medium-sized, orange yellow in color, moderately juicy, excellent keeping quality, good for canning even. Bangalore, I don't know anybody who's ever tried that one.
I've never heard in Arizona.
Well, so some of these are, mostly Indian or Asian
Yeah.
varieties. Bombay, I do have some people who have brought those over from back home with them. It's not a consistent bearer, but it's a good keeper is why they like it. So they can store it well. You can see if there's anything on there that you want
Huh.
to mention. You know me, I like getting the oddball list out.
It's all right.
Yeah, so what you generally find here that are heavy here is Irwin, Keat, Tommy Atkins. Another one out of that you'll see here occasionally is Julie Peter. Fruit Punch is another big one.
Coconut cream, it's delicious.
Uh,
Were you at the meeting when Dawn brought pineapple? Maybe it was Pineapple Express or something like that, and it tasted like,
Yes.
it was unreal. That was one of the best mangoes I've ever eaten in my entire life. Let me see if I can get service.
so ice cream is generally June, July. It's almost like a mango sorbet, actual flavor to it. Hardy skin, disease resistant. Valencia Pride is another popular one. That's July, August.
It's a good one. It's a good.
Very sweet and aromatic. Fiberless. Lemon Zest is another popular one. Like I said, Derek's just
Yeah,
performed outstanding up there in Phoenix.
Lemon zest tastes like-
It has almost a mild lemon hint to it, I thought, but and well, they say it's considered one of the tastiest mangoes. Pickering. I've never had that one.
Carrie.
Carrie's a good one. Kent does pretty well here. That's a little bit later season and a very vigorous grower, so you want to give that one room to grow.
There's a key in Kent there.
Keat and Kent,
Yeah.
yeah. You brought both, okay.
Awesome.
Manny's-
Pineapple Pleasure is what it was called.
Yeah.
So Pineapple Pleasure, we tasted, Don
Har-
Olson brought down to one of our meetings a couple years back. And that was the tastiest,
Harvest
very
Moon.
low fiber mango I've ever had in my entire life.
Harvest Moon is another good one. That's and fairly disease resistant as well. So if you're in an area where you've got a lot of issues, Kensington, if you ever get down to Australia, is a really good one.
No question.
Are you going? Going down under, eh, mate?
Who was it that was going to Jamaica here lately? Julie's a good one there. That's where it originated from. Early Gold, Edward Fairchild is a good one from out of the Panama, those areas. So if you ever get down there, that's probably what you're gonna be eating. So
And then Home Depot sells
whatever they get shipped.
they sell the same one always, Manila, and I think they're grown from seed. They're great root stock if you want to learn how to graft onto them. My only mango I haven't killed is Manila rootstock, and I have Alfonso on it, and I'm going to add a couple other varieties now that I've got a nicer tree. But it works well for a starter, and if you kill it within a year, you can return it and they'll give you your money back. So it's a smart thing to do. If you're not taking this seriously. Yeah. I hate to support the big box corporations, but that's where we're at as a society at this point.
That's
Problem is, the nurseries that sold them the mangoes are the ones who have to replace it, and they're out the money, not Home Depot.
Yeah,
So that's why a lot of those growing nurseries go out of business, because they get all the returns and have to pay for it. Home Depot doesn't.
so be nice to Home Depot, I guess, guys.
Be nice,
Be nice to the smaller,
be nice to the other businesses.
well,
Every 10 like that.
little plants, yeah.
Yeah, so I think I break even there.
You could just bring a stick in and say that I killed this rosemary.
You say, and
I've seen the worst things coming through Home Depot.
they,
I did that once and they called somebody from
Just
the garden.
the
department,
idea.
and they go,
It's a stick.
and then, it's a, whatever it was. Yeah. They couldn't tell it was like big or something, whatever it was.
The early days, they used to return the cut Christmas trees. It died, here it died.
Oh my God.
Oh, seriously.
You're so quiet.
Well, you gave a guarantee. Yeah, he's just here to collect the key at the end, make certain we lock up and we don't destroy anything.
He's absorbing.
No, he does. He's just quiet. He's learning. He's being quiet. He's observing. That's why he's hiding in the back. So if you haven't been able to tell yet, we have fun here because Jake usually brings his drink well situated, but wait. This is a police officer and who are you
Yeah, you
bribing?
were getting bribed now?
Your shield is, you're doing the bribing? I thought
Cops can bribe. We can't bribe the cops.
I don't care. Huh? Where do I think she learned it? Of course, on the Tucson. Oh, so you learned how to do the bribing right. So, all right. Okay, here's the important question. Next month is September.
You want that?
No, on the
Oh,
head, cold, ice pack, right?
here we go. It's hot in Tucson right now.
Recyclable.
Okay, so now,
I didn't see you do that. Roxanne's got an ice pack on the
Really?
head too.
Like, hey,
Thank you for bringing the ice packs with
Yeah.
nitrogen in them.
next month is September. What would everybody like to learn about in September?
What are we harvesting? Did we do?
Avocado, we did avocados
did we
this year
do
already.
guavas This year?
What's that?
I thought
Pears
we-
are,
I thought we did pears 2 months ago.
we could do dates.
Ooh, dates are almost there.
Dates
right
are
now.
almost coming on for,
I'm going next door.
Normally, I'm like, living in a house with the dark, like.
Yeah, I want to go bag my neighbors right now because they are looking like they're getting there. Huh.
they're starting to ripen,
Yeah.
yeah, there's,
My neighbor's tree is so loaded right now, I can't believe it. They sold the property. The guy used to go get the pollen from the male tree in the front full of bees and go up on the 20-foot ladder and shake it all over. He no longer lives there, but our property has created such a habitat. We have so many native bees, etc. The tree is so loaded, I could probably make a couple $1,000s off of the fruit, and I think I need to go climb and bag those fruit up.
Oh, it is.
good, I need some, but let's hope that they actually got pollinated.
Oh,
because
they
sometimes-
did. Oh, they're monsters.
Sometimes they'll still. fruit
Yeah,
without
I know
oats.
what that looks like.
Does dates sound okay? I'm just trying to think of what might be in season.
Dates would be cool.
I mean, otherwise we can do pears.
I can't remember when we did pears last.
Dates? Okay, so next month will be dates, 6:30 in the evening. I realize it ended up showing as
You
6
did say-
o'clock.
It's
when
on
I
the
posted
daylight
it-
savings time.
6, no, we don't do that stupidity. 30, no, yes, always 6.
M, not A, M, and Arizona.
Yeah, date sounds great. I need to learn more about them. I have lots of
Okay.
date trees and
All right, so next
Don't
month
quite
will
understand
be
it all.
dates. We will talk dates. We will have a date to have a date.
yeah, I have a bunch of stuff.
Arabian.
I have,
All dates are out of the Arabian Peninsula.
the most common one.
Medjool, they're all Arabian dates.
Medjools, are you talking about?
Upside down bank building.
What do they have?
The dates.
Yeah, all the dates are Arabian.
Uh,
All dates are from Arabia. Doesn't matter. All,
need to
all
find
dates
out more
are
about
from
that.
Arabia.
Not Phoenix, there.
All dates are out of Arabia. All edible dates. Yes, I know. Phoenix canariensis are not edible dates and they're not out of Arabia.
We won't talk about
All edible dates come out of the Arabian Peninsula. Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq.
that. Mediterranean.
So that's it.
Arabia was-
Well, it's also alfalfa is out of that region as well.
They come here and harvest.
So, all right, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Next month is going to be dates. We look forward to seeing you all there. Have a blessed evening.
Thanks, guys. Thanks very much.
Hey, thank you
Bye.
for joining us.
There you go.